My name is Ethan Chiu, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a sophomore.
My name is Tenzing Sherpa, pronouns she, her, and hers, and I'm also a sophomore.
And we're the co-host of Tea Off the Lake,
well,
along with our other co-host, Mannz.
We started the podcast as kind of a combination of two different podcasts almost.
Me and Jay were just gonna start like a little variety show podcast, just talk about random stuff.
I wanted to do a podcast originally called Tea Time with Tenzing, where I would talk to women of color about their stories and what made them them. We eventually kind of started talking and we were like, let's just combine it. So we've kind of got this really serious topic and aspect of it with something that's maybe not so serious, a little bit of humor to it. So it kind of balances out and it really works.
Usually we'll meet beforehand, kind of draft our ideas, kind of figure out what we want to talk about. If we're having a guest, we'll try to meet with them beforehand.
We extend when we talk about topics on our podcast. So we have had topics about gender normativity and conversations around gender and the non-binary. We've had conversations about
cultural capital.
Yeah, cultural capital, which is a great conversation to have anywhere. What we do is we try to extend our resources. So we try to look for papers or topics, and then I'll bring it back to Jay or Ethan, or it's kind of vice versa, where we'll reach out and find other resources. We try to find people that are specific to that topic as well to come talk about it.
And then we'll meet up to record. Usually takes about an hour, hour and a half-ish.
Yeah.
Usually an episode's 40 minutes. We'll have around an hour so that we have time to talk. We're not associated with anything. We're doing this completely independently on our own. We release on our own. We pay for what we need to on our own. We do say we're students out of Loyola, so just kind of maintaining our creative freedom. If there are departments that do want to use this, letting them know hey, what we say is our truths, and we're speaking our own truths as our experiences as students of color at a predominantly white institution. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of making sure we're not restricting our own creative freedom on what we want and what we need to say to please a certain kind of audience.
Yeah, I agree with him to that completely, because I think a lot of the time our experiences as students of color are experiences that are not always spoken about, so they make people kind of uncomfortable when we do talk about things, for example, that have to do with a demographic that we don't necessarily fit in with. So it's really about being able to balance uncomfortable conversations and making them comfortable in an environment where maybe these conversations aren't had, like Loyola, because it is a predominantly white institution.
Like Tenzing said earlier, we're about pushing that really hard conversation that's not very talked about. Things about things like gender, things like race issues. It's just a conversation that needs to be had that no one's having. So kind of we're trying to really push that into the mainstream.
And I think something else to highlight is at least for me, I kind of wanted to go into it with this intent of the demographic being young high school students who weren't sure if they wanted to go into higher education, who were students of color, because they were uncomfortable. I come from a very heavy, predominantly white background where I grew up in an education system. I was 98% white. So being the one brown person in the room makes you really uncomfortable, and it makes you question whether or not you're supposed to be in that space and whether or not you should be in that space. So when I came to Loyola and then I realized there were a bunch of people of color that had very, very similar experiences as me, I was oh, this is really important, because I don't think other students growing up realize that their experiences are valid, and because they don't realize their experiences are valid, a lot of their stories go untold, and that's really unfortunate, because when you feel your story is untold or invalid, it devalues you as a person. So our podcast is really meant for people to feel they have a community, even if they aren't in our community.
I think a lot of it's been a lot of community building. People do listen, surprisingly. People have talked about how much it means to them, someone's having this conversation. People have even reached out to us asking if they can come on and talk about certain topics. We're growing as a platform for other people to come and amplify their voice and what needs to be said.
And in turn, I think that helps us. We're able to learn from our own successes, and I think that's the most important part of everything that we do, So the podcast as a whole has got this growth mindset. We're always looking to grow, and we're always looking to expand. So just as social justice is always changing, we are as well.